This is the first affirmative constructive by Madden Hoffman. We have an 8-minute timer. I guess that's how long we have. And we begin with our introduction. Are the judges ready? Is the timer ready? Then let's begin. Good morning. My name is Madden Hoffman, and this is my partner, Bob Wiley. And we stand by the resolution that the death penalty should be abolished in all 50 states. We should start by defining our terms to avoid any confusion. Definition 1. Death. The total cessation of life processes that eventually occurs in all living organisms. Source, Encyclopedia Britannica. Definition 2. Penalty. The suffering in person's rights or property that is annexed by law or judicial decision to the commission of a crime or public offense. Source, Merriam-Webster. Definition 3. Death penalty. A death penalty is a sentence of execution for murder and some other capital crimes, serious crimes, especially murder, which are punishable by death. Source, U.S. Legal. Definition 4. Abolished. Abolished, to end an activity or custom officially. Source, Cambridge Dictionary. Definition 5. Cruel. Extremely unkind and unpleasant, and causing pain to people or animals intentionally. Source, Cambridge Dictionary. Definition 6. Unusual. It does not happen very often, or you do not see it or hear it very often. Source, Collins English Dictionary. Definition 7. Botched. Unsuccessful. Being poorly done. Spoiled by mistake. Now we move on to our second observation. Harms. Harm 1. When we have the death penalty, there is a greater possibility that the execution will be botched, and in such making the form of punishment cruel and unusual, thus breaking the Eighth Amendment to the Constitution. Quote, it is estimated that 3% of U.S. executions in the period from 1890 to 2010 were botched. In the 2014 book, Gruesome Spectacles, Botched Executions in America's Death Penalty by Austin Surratt, a professor of jurisprudence and political science at Amherst College, describes the history of flawed executions in the U.S. during that period. Surratt reports that over 120 years, 8,776 people were executed, and 276 of those executions, 3.15%, went wrong in some way. Lethal injection had the highest rate of botched executions at 7.12%. End quote. From the DPIC, botched executions, and then from a 2014 Gallup poll, quote, Americans still say that the lethal injection is the most inhumane form of execution. Lethal injection has been the most common method state officials have used to execute death row inmates for many years. 2014, 65% of Americans who believe in the death penalty believe in lethal injections, end quote. Though 3% seems like a small amount when we have executed only 8,776, the number is still an unacceptable amount. And with the most common form of execution having the highest rate, why do we even have the death penalty? Harm 2. The death penalty opens up a possibility to innocents being wrongly executed. Quote, since 1900, 300 people have been wrongly convicted. The death penalty makes it impossible to remedy any such mistakes. If, on the other hand, the death penalty is not enforced, convicted persons later found innocent can be released and compensated for time wrongly served in prison. From 2014, end quote. From 2014, Markkula Center for Applied Ethics, and then from Harvard Law, capital punishment will always present the risk that an innocent person will be executed, end quote. Harm 3. The death penalty is outrageously expensive. In a policy issue report from the DPIC, they say that, quote, the death penalty is far more expensive than a system utilizing life without parole sentences as an alternative punishment. Some of the reasons for the high cost of the death penalty are the longer trials and appeals required when a person's life is on the line. They need more for lawyers and experts on both sides of the case and the relative rarity of executions, end quote. If it is more costly to have the death penalty than life imprisonment, what is the point of ending someone's life? Observation 3. Plan. Here is our plan. We will mandate that the death penalty is made illegal in all 50 states and the remaining territories. This change will be made by Congress of the U.S. being enforced by the executive branch of the U.S., and our funding will come from money no longer being used to pay for the death penalty. Observation 5. Advantages. Advantage 1. When we abolish the death penalty, there will no longer be any possibility for botched execution. Therefore, no possibility of breaking the Eighth Amendment. In an execution in Arizona in the spring of 2014, U.S. News reports that inmate Joseph Rudolph Wood began gasping for air, which witnesses said carried on for more than an hour. The governor issued a full investigation of the execution, but held that Wood died in a lawful manner, and by eyewitness and medical accounts did not suffer. U.S. legal. End quote. When we change the policy to eliminate the possibility, we then will no longer have any trouble in that respect. Advantage 2: there will no longer be any more wrongful executions because there will be no more executions. Given the fallibility of human judgment, there has always been the danger that an execution could result in the killing of an innocent person. Since 1973, 185 former death row prisoners have been exonerated of all charges related to wrongful executions that had put them on death row. Reforms have been begrudgingly implemented, but increasing both the cost and time that the death penalty consumes, but we have not been sufficient to overcome human error. From the death penalty policy issue, innocence. We will be most certainly eliminating wrongful executions and exonerations from the death row by eliminating the penalty. Advantage 3. The outrageous cost will be no more, and the funds can be redirected to cracking down on crime. During his presentation at the Fourth World Council Against the Death Penalty, James Abbott, police chief of West Orange County, New Jersey, stated that if you, quote, give a law enforcement professional like me those extra dollars, and I'll show you how to reduce crime. The death penalty isn't anywhere on my list, end quote. If more money is being spent on a policy that isn't necessary, then why do we have it? It is more advantageous and cheaper to hold someone for life than to hold them for years, then kill them in an expensive process. Conclusion. I will end this first constructive with a quote from John Grisham, an attorney and novelist. I'm not in favor of the death penalty, but I'm in favor of locking these people away in maximum security units where they can never get out. They can never escape. They can never be paroled. Lock the bad ones away, but you gotta rethink everybody else. End quote. Therefore, my partner, Bob Miley, and I, Madden Hoffman, strongly urge and plead and compel the judges to vote for the resolution that the death penalty should be abolished in all 50 states. I now stand ready for cross-examination. Thank you.